योगः कर्मसु कौशलम्.
Welcome, sir. Now I hand over my to the Navneet sir for the introduction of Dangayach sir. Navneet sir, please introduce Dangayach sir.
Today we have in our midst Mr. S.B. Dangayach as our speaker for the Impact Lecture Series. It is my pleasure to welcome him. Mr. S.B. Dangayach is a distinguished alumnus of the Indian Institute of Management Ahmedabad. He is the founder trustee of the Innovative Thought Forum. Mr. Dangayach started as executive in the Sintex company, but rose to the position of managing director due to his virtues of innovative thinking and skills. He has been featured in the best-selling book, Stay Hungry, Stay Foolish, as a role model for entrepreneurs. Mr. Dangayach is a passionate proponent of clean and green technologies. He has been a bearer in this area too. He has been a regular speaker at seminars, symposia, and conferences due to his expertise. Today he will be speaking on the topic of entrepreneurship. He has advised the audience to be very active to derive maximum benefit out of the lecture. I welcome you, sir, to this expert lecture series. I hope all students and audience will be interactive to get maximum benefit out of this lecture. Welcome you once again, sir. With this, I hand over the proceeding to Professor Amit Rathod.
Welcome, sir. Are you able to listen to us? Can you? I think he is. Just a minute, we will be connecting with him in some time. Sir, are you able to listen to us? Dangayach sir?
Hello.
Am I audible, sir?
You are audible.
Dangayach,
What
sir?
do you mean?
Okay.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are, sir, audible, sir. You can start your camera.
That's what I'm trying to do. It's not starting. Is it
okay? I
Can you
think
see
that
me
would
now?
be fine. It's okay, sir. You can start your address. Okay, now it is you are visible. Visible,
Yeah,
sir.
Okay. You see, I have had a lot of the problems with the connection. I don't know. I always find this Microsoft Team to be a problem. Anyway, I'm joining right now from my mobile, and therefore, whatever little that I can possibly contribute, I will try to. So, Dr. Singh, first of all, my apologies for the kind of hiccups that we have had and the delay. But I would like to obviously, like to know the context and the audience. I believe these are all engineering students from your Vishwakarma Engineering Institute or the other places.
Yes, sir. All students are engineering students, and most of the students are second year and third year students who have studied design thinking in one of the, at least one time, and we have an entrepreneurship cell here in our institute. So some of them are part of that, and some of them wish to join this kind of means endeavor. And we would also want to know from you about the entrepreneurship, because that is how a person grows. So that is actually the main agenda that we wish to have this in your talk.
Well, first of all, warm greetings to all the students who have joined this particular talk. I would like to first of all say that entrepreneurship is a foreign term. It's a term which has come either from France or it has come from some part of Europe, and obviously it kind of is synonymous. It is kind of an alternative term or word for business. In the good old days, anybody who did business put his own money, put his own time, put his own efforts into realizing a profit. So every businessman, you would say, is either an entrepreneurship or an entrepreneur. Every businessman is an entrepreneur in very simplistic terms. So anybody who is trying to sort of take a risk, a calculated risk or a gamble, and put in his time and put in his effort is a businessman. In our own country, in our Devanagari or the other languages, you'd come across the word vyapar. Now, vyapar is the equivalent to business, and vyapari or the businessmen or traders is a very large community in our own country. So I would say the practice of entrepreneurship, or you may say habit of starting a business, has been very much a part and parcel of our Indian ethos. You would all be aware that every individual who has come into this world is expected in the Sanatan thinking or in our Indian thinking to perform four purusharth or four tasks. And they are dharma, earth, kam, and moksha. Now, when you talk about dharma, it is relating to ethics. And when you talk about earth, it is relating to wealth creation. And wealth creation obviously can be done in different ways, but one of them is to kind of carry out business or trade. So entrepreneurship is a buzzword. Entrepreneurship is a much hyped word, but it is business. Well, various authors, various researchers define entrepreneurship in a slightly different way by saying that if you are doing business in an innovative way, in a new way, in something which is so different, then you are supposed to be carrying out entrepreneurship. Then these days we have got another term, which is the startup. Startup is a buzzword, and startup is being projected as the next wave. And it is said that startup is different than entrepreneurship. Startup, as a matter of fact, are required to involve technology in offering solutions which can be, you can say, suitably monetized. But startups are all entrepreneurs. First, they are entrepreneurs, and then they are possibly having a refinement. So if I try to look at, let's say, business, entrepreneurship, and startup, if I look at the three gradations, I think we can possibly look at any discipline in the educational field and try to relate it to, for example, BAC can be called as the business, MSc can be like entrepreneurship, and PhD can be like a startup. So all of them are doing business. Some are doing with a kind of an innovative, a different approach, a differentiating approach, or they are doing something with involvement of high technology or new technology, and that's how they are all called startups. So this is something, which I guess, they should be very clear to you. And you have to understand very, very well that there are essential elements of succeeding in business. It is not easy for everybody to conceptualize the different dimensions of business. Uh, I can tell you from my experience that business is a fairly complex process. It involves a variety of things, right from, you may say, ideation to piloting to coming up with a product. But that is alone not enough. You need to find, obviously, customers, and you need to find markets. You need to find people who will buy services from you and pay for it. So you are tempted to therefore ask, when do you think the business occurs? Business happens, business occurs when there is an exchange of goods and services for some value, some price, some kind of a payment. If you are offering a product or a service, and then there is a customer who pays for it, and then you are in a position to obviously transact it in a suitable manner, you say that you have done business. I think you have to ask yourself, uh, in many contexts, many situations, and in Gujarat, for example, somebody will say that I have done dhando. मैं धंधो कर्यो, मैं business कर्यो, मैं व्यापार कर्यो. You now have to understand what exactly is the actual transaction that has happened, which can be termed as doing business. Business happens when you raise a bill. Business happens when you have kind of offered a product or service, raised a bill, and realized the money for it. So, in respect of doing business or any entrepreneurship, you may say revenue generation is the first thing. So once you are generating revenue, that means you are selling, you are marketing, you are offering some goods or services. To do that, you naturally have to produce. So operations and productions become very important. Finance is literally like the lifeblood of any business. And until unless you understand accounting and finance, you can be absolutely unsuccessful or wrong in your business practices. Then you are talking about HR, and last but not the least, you have got many external circumstances that are to be looked at. Now, why I am talking about all these things is that many of you would think that you have got an idea, you have got some, say, novel idea, you have got some, say, kind of a concept, and therefore you can easily develop something, seek a patent, go, say, for kind of an IPR, go for a prototyping, and hey, the business happens. Please understand, it is not that very easy. Please understand, IPR is not business. Patent is not business. Your developing a prototype is not business. Your research is not business. Your development is not business. Business will happen only when you have raised a bill, only when you have completed the sales transaction in which there's an agreement on the kind of payment that you would get and you secure that payment. It is only at that point of time business would have happened. Now, this is fundamental to every single entrepreneurship or business activity. Why I'm talking to you about this is that we have to understand the Indian context. And in the Indian context, all these steps have to be gone through. In some other places, there could be different approach, but in our own context, this is something which is absolutely vital. I have been interacting with a lot of people in the field of entrepreneurship. I have been going to EDII for the last maybe 10, 15, 20 years. And I would like to share with you something that may possibly good for you to know. In our country, we have got close to 6.5 crore enterprises. In good old days, there were, you may say, small, then there were medium, and then there were large. Hello, am I audible? Huh.
Yes, sir, you are audible, sir. You are audible,
I'm
sir.
sorry, you see, because I've joined from the phone. I've got a lot of
Yeah,
problems.
that's fine, sir. Okay, sir.
So,
We would also.
Pardon?
Yeah, yes, sir. Actually, you can means I have in one of your seminar I have heard about your Sintex story, and maybe you have also tried some innovative ideas and why some fail, some succeed, and so I mean you can also share
Yeah,
those. That
I'll
would
finish
be
10, 15. I'll finish in 10, 15 minutes, and after that, I'll be very glad to answer whatever
okay.
questions that the people have got.
Okay, sir.
You
Thank you,
can
sir.
you can put
Yeah.
all the questions. You can collect all the questions from the box, and then you can
Okay.
ask me. I think that would be much better. But let me
Okay.
just complete a few things which are very vital for everybody to understand. So
Okay.
I'm just telling you about the situation in India. We have got 6.5 crore to 7 crore enterprises. Now, out of these enterprises, 6.5 to 7 crore, 99% or above are micro enterprises. Micro enterprises means a turnover of less than 5 crores. So you may say a kind of an electrical shop repairing TVs and things like that is an enterprise. In the same fashion, your grocer, your small vegetable vendor is also an enterprise. These are all enterprises. Somebody who is possibly offering engineering services is also an enterprise. Somebody who is offering a consultancy is also an enterprise. Somebody who is providing after sales service is also an enterprise. So all these enterprises are included in this total number of 6.5 to 7 crores. So the question is, what kind of knowledge is imparted to these enterprises so that they can improve their the performance, they can improve their profitability? All across the country, there is a dearth of knowledge that has to be provided to them because it is something which is vital for them to understand and for them to perform well. So I was talking in EDII and I suggested that for these micro enterprises, there should be some kind of a module which will enhance their knowledge from the angle of marketing, from the angle of designing, from the angle of manufacturing, from the angle of trading, etc., etc., etc. And we thought of micro MBA for micro enterprises. Well, that possibly did not happen. And then we zeroed on to a kind of a term which will be appealing to all of you. And it is called Vyapar Sutra. Vyapar is for business and Sutra is from the kind of a formula. So how do you succeed in business? That is all encompassed in Vyapar Sutra. And the introductory part of Vyapar Sutra is available on the YouTube, and you can have a look at it. You can just use a Google or put on YouTube and the search Vyapar Sutra, and you'll have a 15 minutes of introductory talk. I would suggest that each one of you goes through that, but it talks about the kind of essential elements that everybody who is aspiring to do business or everybody who is doing business must understand. It has got 15 or 16 lecture modules. Some of them are relating to marketing, selling, branding. The initial parts are all relating to costing, pricing, accounting, finance, etc., etc. So in this fashion, you have got 16 such modules, each of an hour and 15 minutes. And if you listen to them, you'll understand that as an engineering student or as a commerce student or as you may say a science student, if you want to do any business on your own, it is something that will indeed be very helpful to you. So this is the first part. Second part that I would like to share with you is very frankly, all of you are in engineering profession and engineering, I would say, courses. Engineer is supposed to be essentially a term meaning solution providing. So an engineer, as a matter of fact, is supposed to be a solution provider to the society. A civil engineer provides solutions in the field of construction and buildings and infrastructure. A mechanical engineer is supposed to be devising, making, solving the problems in the mechanical arena, and so forth. So engineers are, as a matter of fact, solution providers to the society. Now, if an engineer wants to build his own business, today you must understand that the jobs are not taken or can not be taken as granted. You can join private sector where jobs are now available on contractual basis. They could be available for limited validity, after which you are required to say to renew your contract, or maybe you will be required to look for an alternative employment. So the job market has changed now, and many of you will be required to contend with the fact that you will have to reskill yourself and go for alternative jobs. Government jobs are far and few, and therefore it has now become essential that every person who is passing out, like so all of you will be passing out, you are all first of all capable of supplementing your income with some say special skills or with some special kind of assignments that you can handle, or you are empowered, you are capable of developing your own business and then move forward. So if you're trying to do your own business, as I told you, something like Vyapar Sutra is absolutely necessary for you to know, because in a business you have to understand that merely getting a registration as a startup or as an enterprise is not enough. It is just not enough to get a kind of a registration or an approval for starting an enterprise. After you have started, your real journey starts. So all kinds of troubles that you will be facing while running the business, operations, maintenance, or running of that business and growing that business, are going to be indeed very challenging, wherein you will have to look at everything: accounting, pricing, finance, on to regulatory compliances, marketing, designing, selling, distribution, branding, on to manpower management, on to to other things. A very important thing, as entrepreneurs, as businessmen, you will have to understand that there is a legal framework of taxes, so GST, income tax, and then on top of that, you have got the many other compliances and regulations that also you will have to factor in. So running a business is indeed a very complex exercise. Closing the business is a very big challenge in our country. So how do you close the business satisfactorily without say any kind of burden after you've closed, is itself a very big problem. And above all, if you have made any mistakes while running the business, the burden and the responsibility or liability can be there for years together. So I'm just trying to explain to you that you have to first of all understand the job market, which is these days requiring that so you do both. Just a moment.
We have some interruption, but sir will join back in some time.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, sir.
So this is something which you have to contend with, the legal compliances and other things that have to be also factored in. Now, coming to this part wherein you have to look for self-employment, you have to look for your own business. This is where all of you will have to really be prepared, because merely jobs are not going to be easily available. So this is the third thing that I would like to say. And now, I would like to only tell you about the ecosystem. The overall ecosystem today is very favorable from the angle that government wants to encourage. There are many people who are willing to provide angel fund. They are willing to provide the seed fund. They are willing to provide various types of venture capital and say private equity. All these things say are certainly available, but not easy, because you will have to go through the entire process of satisfying and thereafter taking it forward. So with that, I will stop now, and I would like to take questions, and then obviously answered some of the queries that you've got.
Okay, thank you, sir. We have collected already the questions beforehand, and we would like to know about this your story about the Sintex, how things well. That was the first question. Then we have subsequent questions, sir.
Well, I joined Sintex in 74. I passed out from IIM Ahmedabad in 72. I joined Bharat Vijay Mills, as it was called at that time, in their plastics division, which was called Sinterplast Containers at that point of time. I'm considered, or I'm possibly recognized, an entrepreneur, because at the age of, let's say, 22, 23, I became profit center head, and I had complete responsibility for developing, running, managing the business, excepting for putting in my personal finance. So when you are working within an organization with an innovative and entrepreneurial bent of mind, and are taking complete onus and responsibility, you are obviously called an entrepreneur. That means an entrepreneur within an organized setup. So with this definition, I can possibly be bracketed as an entrepreneur. Since I saw a lot of opportunities for development of new solutions, Sintex took the lead in evolving, developing, marketing, streamlining, mainstreaming, a whole lot of, I would say, products and solutions in a variety of sectors, buildings industries, thereafter environment, prefabs, healthcare, all kinds of things. Sintex had its role in several solutions that it offered, and we had to go through that complete process. Every single development had a kind of unwritten or a written procedure as to what could be done. For example, if we felt that XYZ should be made or should be offered, well, there was a process of, first of all, ascertaining whether there is a market or not. As you are all exposed to design thinking essentially talks about the customer first. Design thinking starts with the customer. Design thinking starts starts with your understanding what are the requirements of the customer, then tailoring, and customizing the solution, satisfying the end customer, and thereby have a win-win situation. So whenever we thought of doing XYZ, we thought that we should first of all carry out a market survey, should try to find out who the customers are going to be, how they are going to to view it, how are they going to pay for it, etc., etc. So after that, go for proper, you may say, method of making it, technological collaboration with outsiders, or doing it within, then taking it forward, introducing it, developing a brand, developing a kind of a market. So complete thing, proof of concept means, so you develop the product, after that you get it tested, after that, say take it, to a larger market, and then expand it. Well, this journey obviously consisted of a whole lot of solutions and products, and there would have been dozens of them, but a few that became possibly successful were like our industrial containers, our chemical tanks, our water tanks, our package type sewage treatment plants, our doors, our plastic sections, all kinds of enclosures that we made for the electrical industry, like a fiberglass or composite boxes, etc., etc. So all of them were successful, but there were quite a few unsuccessful things where we worked very hard but did not succeed because of having been ahead of time or having not been able to gauge the market correctly. The surveys are also approximate. Many of the surveys, they give you very rosy picture, but the production is a bomb because you have not taken all the factors into account, or the products don't appear to be having a good market, but even then you take a plunge and you take a risk and you make it successful. So both, these, things have been a part and parcel. We, for example, introduced PVC windows, which are called now UPVC windows. Now, PVC windows that we introduced was probably 3 decades back. It was well ahead of time. We positioned, repositioned, but we did not succeed. We had gone for the best collaboration from Germany. We had, obviously connected to a whole lot of people in Europe, in America, before we took a plunge, before we started making them in India. We involved the architects, we involved the specifiers, we involved, all kinds of people. And we positioned it also from the angle of these windows being energy saving, being noise saving or noise blocking. But all our efforts, did not give us any success. And after 5 or 7 years of hard work, we kind of closed down that particular part of the business. Likewise, there were some others. So I'm just giving you a picture that after having gone through a very systematic selection, systematic manufacturing, systematic technical inputs, uh, marketing, success is not 100% guaranteed thing. So I had this bent of mind to look at new things, because there was an unwritten recommendation, or you may say suggestion from the owners or from the board of directors, that Sintex should always come up with new solutions. And that is how Sintex became synonymous with innovative solutions or innovative products across the board. And whatever we did was probably the first time that it ever touched India, barring 1 or 2 common products like carboys or drums, which were being made by others. But a dozen or more than a dozen products or solutions that we offered in the span of around 35 years were absolutely innovative, absolutely novel in the country. For the first time, they were introduced, and we created markets, or we tried not to create markets, and did that profitably and did that reasonably well. Yes.
Thank you, sir, for the answer. Now we have another questions like we would like to hear some a kind of a failure story which had turned into success story. Like, I mean, we have heard that initially the water tank Sintex was made for something else, but then it was then it was popular in some other sector. So maybe because that's what design thinking is about, and so maybe you can discuss on that particular topic.
We started, as a matter of fact, Sinteplast containers, the plastics division, Bharat Vijay Mill started with a desire to make card cans. Many of you are not aware that in textile industry there is a process called carding. You take cotton, and then cotton is converted into a sliver. The raw cotton is converted into a sliver, and that is done by the process of carding. The owners of Bharat Vijay Mills were obviously connected to the textiles industry, but they wanted to diversify into emerging industries at that point of time, which were chemicals and plastics. So they thought, why not we come up with something in plastics which will be appropriate for the textiles? And they were familiar with textiles, so they thought any product that they could make successful in their own mills or in own textile unit can be marketed all over the country. So the owner at that time, Shri Dinesh Bhai Patel, Sheikh, he was the person who saw plastic card cans in some European or some American textile mills. So curiosity got better of him, and he thought, why not, we make them in India? And that is how he scouted for the technology and scouted for somebody who can collaborate, and came up with the idea of making those cans with the technical help from Holland or from America. I joined at that point of time when the machines were ordered, and we were all set for making card cans. Believe me or not, after 2 or 3 years of struggle, we did not succeed with the card cans. But I mean, we were little, you may say, wiser. So while we had ordered everything for card can, we also felt that we should order something else that can be made on the same machine. The rotational molding machine is a versatile machine. It's good for making any hollow object. So it was good for making card cans, but it was also good for making tanks and containers and things like that. So we got some molds for making even tanks and containers. And we started marketing those tanks and containers along with the card cans. Card cans did not succeed, but the tanks and containers succeeded. So within 3-4 years, that is, from 75 to 77, 78, within 3 years, we were the leaders in industrial tanks or industrial containers made of plastics of large size. And I recall that whatever we had offered at that point of time involved a lot of hard work, but we eventually succeeded in making these acceptable to the chemical, pharmaceutical, electroplating, and many, many other industries. And our tanks or containers became the first choice for providing a corrosion-free solution whenever they wanted to handle or store these chemicals or pharma intermediates or electroplating chemicals, etc., etc. It was at this point of time we felt that we should try to get into something which possibly will have a wider market, because the tanks meant for industries were having a very limited market. So we thought, how can we repurpose uh, the very process for making the water tanks, which could possibly be having a bigger market. So we did a market survey. As I told you, our thinking was always, very systematic. So we thought, let's carry out a market survey. The market survey showed that at the kind of a price that we were thinking of selling these tanks will never be acceptable, because steel tanks or the RCC tanks that were made at that point of time were a lot cheaper. So after doing the survey and after realizing that the survey does not give any rosy picture, I sat down and I said, what is it going to cost us? Even if, say maybe make water tanks and then start marketing. Well, it could be in millions at that point of time, maybe 50 lakhs or a crore rupees. If we can bear that risk and introduce water tanks in the market, let's see, so what happens. And that is how we defined, say the market survey report. We introduced them, worked hard, and in some years' time, these tanks became the first choice in many government departments, and later on with the architects, and later on with the consumers. So it took a good 4 or 5 years to make them really number one. So in 80s, it became then successful, and rest all is history.
Yes, sir. Also, we would like to know about some of the initiatives which has some sentimental element. We have heard that Sintex also started about building a house, which is actually kind of an modular house that can be built. That was tried in African, but it was something a kind of an, if you can share the story.
Well, you are all very well aware. You are all from civil engineering, and you know the civil construction part very well. But we realized that, along with the RCC or the other types of construction practices, there was a need for prefabricated houses and structures. So this particular thought process of going for prefabs was there in our mind maybe since the year 1990 onwards. We wanted to get into something which will enable us to make a big splash in the construction market. So we looked at different ways in which we can make prefab structures like houses, or you may say the schools or the health centers, etc., etc. Since we were constantly tracking, the innovations outside of India, we were aware that some people had made plastic houses. By that I mean, say using plastic panels as walling or plastic elements as walling, plastic roofing, then, say the doors and windows of plastics, and everything, say could therefore be made in plastics. These could be, say simple plastics like PVC or UPVC, or they could be like composites. So composites or the say plastics, non-composite plastics could be used for making the envelope, and along with that, even the insides you could make, say for example, say various bathroom items like say bathtubs or the wash basins, everything of composites. So we were looking at that, and obviously we were playing around with the idea of giving for army, for the police forces, for so the educational sector, different types of models. So while we were toying with this idea, we saw a kind of a request for proposal from government of Gujarat, which wanted to create school rooms all across Gujarat because the state had a great shortage of schools, and therefore I think L&T or some other people had proposed that in all such places we can make prefabricated classrooms. By that prefabricated or precast, L&T was a typical construction giant, you must be knowing. So they were thinking of obviously using the precast technology, which had been tried out in India but had not clicked. But they thought that at least so for the school rooms, which are small structures, you could be having 1,000 square feet or 500 square feet or 800 square feet kind of classrooms. These can become an ideal thing for precasting. So they came up with that, suggested to Government of Gujarat. Government of Gujarat had to go for an open kind of request for proposal because of the fact that in the government you need to be transparent. So we made a bid against that request for proposal, and we said that we will not be going for precast concrete, but we will go for something which is made out of plastics. Everybody was allowed, government was allowing everybody who wanted to to kind of to give the solution to put up their own prefab rooms and allow an independent team of experts, technical experts, to evaluate and decide what is good and what is not good. So when we made the first one, it was with hollow plastic panels, and since it was hollow plastic panels, it did not satisfy the technical committee. They rejected it. So we made another bid. We requested the government authorities to give us a fresh chance because we were not probably notified, we were not informed why we were rejected. So since say we had a room over there and we had a kind of a leeway, we went to the government and said that you never gave us an information as to why we were rejected. We are now ready with another model and we should be given a chance. Fortunately, they accommodated us, they gave us a chance, and in the meanwhile, we had moved from hollow plastic to a concept called plastocrete, which had plastics on the outside but concrete inside. I mean, in these 3 months or 6 months, we had tried out concreting in the hollow plastic sections, and we called it plastocrete. So we said we'll create another one, which is going to be a combination of plastics and concrete. Plastics on the outside, but inside, there is all concrete, whatever may be the specification, and then we will put it up. So we were allowed to put up, and that is how we got the first large contract for plastocrete classrooms all across Gujarat. So L&T was doing the precast and we were doing the plastocrete. And that was the beginning. And then we innovated a lot on the different kinds of walling, different kinds of doors, different kinds of windows, different kinds of things. And we came up with variety of solutions like composites, or then, say, having, sandwich panels, having polyurethane foam, and a number of things to create a variety of these prefab solutions in which we became the leader at that point of time. But we were also aware about the limitations from the angle of perception for the prefabs of this kind. So if you wanted to go into a housing, we have to think of something which will be kind of emerging from concrete. And that is when we came up with another concept, which possibly was the first of its kind, or maybe second of its kind in the country. There was a company in Canada which had come up with aluminium formwork. Aluminium formwork for making all the walls and the roof in one single shot. And it was called, I guess, a Mascon technology. And there were some samples being made in Mumbai of this for tackling the problem of mass housing. It's at that point of time that we collaborated, or we helped a very renowned structural engineering firm called KB Mehta to come up with a plastic formwork. So we came up with a plastic formwork combining composites and combining the normal plastics to compete with the aluminum formwork, which was that of Mascon. And we created models here in Ahmedabad for KB Mehta, and jointly we came up later with KBM Sintex formwork, which later became Sintex formwork, to come up with houses or come up with structures that will be in one single module. I remember campaigning for it. I remember advocating for it, and I or Sintex gave it the term monolithic concrete construction, which means that you cast all the walls and the roof in one single shot with the formwork, which had the kind of proprietary feature. You finish the first floor, after 3-4 days, carry out the demolding, then move to the next floor. And in this fashion, monolithic concrete construction became the preferred technology for Government of India for large number of houses at one single site. So these kinds of innovations helped Sintex in emerging as a leader in prefabs and later on even in the affordable housing.
Okay, thank you, sir, for the giving shedding light on that particular part. Now we have questions. Another question from a participant. Means how to start a business, and means how should they start with the compliance? Like they should start with partnership firm or something like that, or and you have also mentioned about closing a business. So I mean, what is means different or special about closing a business, and how it is actually as per the government norms? And so that's a question from a participant.
Yeah, as you are aware, the businesses can be having different formats. Can be a single owner, can be a partnership. Okay, so proprietorship, partnership, limited liability partnership LLP, or private limited company, or going forward a public limited company. Simplest form that is acceptable now for startups. I mean, as you must be knowing the startup registration, that simple startup is something wherein you require either an LLP or a registered partnership or a private limited company. You can start it in any way. When you are having a proprietorship, all the liabilities are onto you. When you are having a partnership firm, all the liabilities are unlimited and all the partners are equally liable. A limited liability partnership company is one wherein your liability is limited to the contribution that you have made. For example, if you have brought 10 lakhs and your other, say, partner has brought 10 lakhs, that is a 20 lakhs. So you have got a liability, total liability limitation of 20 lakhs, 10 lakhs for you and 10 lakhs for your partner. But supposing you are having a simple partnership and your partner goes and commits kind of a loan or something else in crores, as a partner in that firm, you be carrying that burden all your while. So I would say any of the formats, limited liability, limited partnership, partnership, registered partnership, or you talk about, the private limited companies, good enough for that. But please understand, when you start a company, you are committing yourself to meeting all the compliances. Whether you are small or big, there are compliances with regard to the taxation, with regard to the GST, with regard to the company law, if it is a company registered. All those things you have got to understand and learn. If you do not comply, then you have got several types of burdens and several kinds of penalties which you will have to bear. Coming lastly to your question of closing the business, when you want to close the business, you have got to get a no objection from variety of departments. And if that does not come through, you would be having a problem in closing your business. Apart from that, there are people who are your creditors, there are people who are your debtors, there is bank with whom you are dealing. You have to get a no objection certificate from each one of them. And that is sometimes not very easy. So in our country, starting the business has been made a lot easier now, but running a business, complying with the norms, all the regulations, and finally closing down satisfactorily is a tough job. And therefore, when you are starting a business, think about everything. Lastly, I must tell you that there are many liabilities that you carry even after the business is closed. For example, you start a business in 2020 or 21 and you do not discharge your income tax liabilities properly, close down the business, so-called business. I mean, you think that you have closed down, so you kind of shut your business and go home and say, all right, nothing is going to happen. And in the year 2024-25, you can get a notice for the year 2021. Even though you are not active in business, you will have to therefore go back and pay up and satisfy them. It is not only you, but supposing you have made your sister, your father, or somebody else a partner. In many of these acts, there is a clause of vicarious liability, in the sense that mistake has been done by the company or somebody else, but the responsibility is shifted to a third person. So, supposing you are a partner, your wife is a partner, or your brother is a partner, you are running the business, there is some mistake that has been committed by the company. Well, as a person, you are running the business, so your liability is all right, but the government departments are into habit of putting the responsibility on each of the persons who has been a partner or a director, and can drag you to a variety of courts, mainly criminal, and you could be in serious trouble. So whenever you are thinking of doing a business, please understand the legalities, please understand the compliances, please understand what are the risks. In business, you have got to understand and assess the risk. If you are not in a position to gauge the risk now and have not factored them in, have not taken the necessary insurance, you could suddenly land yourself in trouble. Be careful on those counts. So you got an idea, you want to start a business, you will make a product, but go design centric. Try to find out who are going to be your customers, who are the people who are going to take it from you, who are going to accept your pricing, who are going to give you orders. This is the first thing that you have to start. After that, you do the business, but while doing the business, be clear about your risks, your liabilities while running the business, and after you have stopped running the business. All these things will give you a clear picture. You may find that it is not at all attractive. I mean, you are making a small margin, but you have left a whole lot of risks to be tackled later. પછી તમે જોવા જશો, बाद में आप देखोगे तो बड़ी तकलीफ उसमें हो सकती है. तो जब करते वक्त, बिजनेस शुरू करने के टाइम, बिजनेस शुरू करने के वक्त इन सब चीज़ों का असेसमेंट कर लेना बहुत ही ज़रूरी है. बिजनेस बंद करना बहुत मुश्किल है, मैं आपको वापस बता रहा हूँ. हमारे यहाँ के कानून, हमारे यहाँ के रूल्स इस तरह के हैं that they don't allow you to close easily. कई बार तो ऐसा होता है कि लोगों ने सोचा कि बिजनेस बंद कर दिया, पर उसके बाद में भी उनको जीएसटी और उन सब चीज़ों के जो है बाकायदा नोटिस आते रहते हैं. अगर नहीं उसको जो सही तरह से टैकल करें, you could have a cumulative burden which may be responsible for loss of your sleep or loss of your money and loss of your efforts. इतना भी मैं आपको बता दूं कि in the legal fraternity, on the legal side, it is very difficult to get sincere lawyers. It is very difficult to get sincere advocates who will do the work for you.
Sir, actually now we will allow जो question हमने अभी पूछे थे, they were वो पहले ऑलरेडी हमारे पास आ चुके थे. नाउ अभी कोई भी ऑडियंस में से कोई स्टूडेंट्स को कोई क्वेश्चन पूछने हैं, सो दे कैन रेज योर हैंड एंड देन वी विल अलाउ देम वन बाय वन. Any students who wants to ask question, they can raise their hand and then they can unmute themselves. Right now more than 120 participants are there. Yeah. Any students?
आप moderate कीजिएगा, आप सवाल लेके फिर मेरे को बताइएगा.
Okay, ठीक है. We have sir, we had one startup here which was started as a hostel startup, जो यानी स्टेशनरी की आइटम्स को यानी स्टूडेंट्स को बेचते थे, जिसे स्टूडेंट्स को स्टेशनरी के आइटम लेने ना जाना पड़े, और वो बहुत ही अच्छा किया. उनको फंडिंग भी मिल गई थी, बट कोरोना के टाइम पे दे हैड टू क्लोज डाउन. So उनका भी एक question था. When I shared these talk details to him, so he said that how to handle this kind of rejection or something which is kind of this big thing, जिसका यानी उनको बहुत बड़ा problem उनको face हुआ. Even they were small. They had reached their revenue up to 60 lakhs per year. They started as a college student and as a sales people, and then it was kind of it was an app called My Tool Bag. Now it is it is not in working condition, but so just wanted to ask means what is a message to them when such difficult situations which are out of control.
ये तो देखिए, मैंने आपको कहा कि बिजनेस में रिस्क का असेसमेंट बड़ा जरूरी है. तो जैसे ये बिजनेस कर रहे थे, मान लिया जाए कि ये क्रेडिट पे बिजनेस कर रहे थे, मान लिया जाए कि ये बिजनेस इस तरह का था कि जिसमें आप सामान दे दो, माल दे दो, इसके बाद में पैसे आए. तो इसमें तो बहुत ही ज़रूरी होता है टू इंश्योर दैट आपका जो कस्टमर है उसके पास में पेइंग कैपेसिटी है, कस्टमर आपका जो है क्वालिटी जो एग्रीड है वो क्वालिटी के हिसाब से आपको पेमेंट देगा और टाइम से पेमेंट देगा. तो किसी भी बिजनेस के अंदर ये तो कंटिन्यूअस असेसमेंट ऑफ रिस्क, कंटिन्यूअस डिसीजन मेकिंग तो करना पड़ेगा. कोविड के टाइम पे जब प्रॉब्लम शुरू हुए तो नेचुरली तकलीफें तो होने की सबको दिख रही थी. तो आई थिंक जो खरीदी करनी है, जो माल खरीदना है, लेना है, स्टॉक करना है, उसमें एडजस्टमेंट कर लेना भी बड़ा अनिवार्य है, बिकॉज यू हैव टू प्रोजेक्ट एज टू व्हाट इज गोइंग टू सेल, व्हाट इज नॉट गोइंग टू सेल. तो ये तो हर एक बिजनेसमैन को कंटिन्यूसली करना ही पड़ता है. इट इज नॉट ओनली दिस स्टेशनरी मार्केट हियर, but you may talk about a small grocer, you may talk about a small vegetable vendor, you can talk about say maybe an electronic good seller. हर एक को करना पड़ता है. ये तो एक सतत ना निरंतर आपको ये करते रहना पड़ेगा. इसमें कोविड के टाइम पे सिचुएशन थोड़ी ज्यादा भयानक हो गई, पर ये तो रोज का काम है. ये रोज बरोज का काम है. हर एक बिजनेसमैन को करते ही रहना पड़ता है. He has to continuously juggle as to what he is going to say to make, what he is going to sell, what kind of inventories will he keep, from where will he get the money. उसको अपना वर्किंग कैपिटल का साइकिल कहाँ से चलाना है, अगर कैपेक्स लेना, कैपिटल लेना तो कहाँ से लेना, लोन कहाँ से लेना है. तभी मैंने आपको बताया कि बिजनेस जो है सिर्फ एक आइडिया से नहीं चलता है, आइडिएशन से या प्रोटोटाइपिंग या पेटेंट लेने से नहीं चलता है. आप लोग सब जो है you are all from engineering the field, and many of you think कि हमने साहब एक पेटेंट ले लिया, 2 पेटेंट ले ली, सरकार ने हमको मदद भी की और हमने पेटेंट हासिल कर ली, एंड इसके बाद में जो हमारी जिंदगी जो है सफल हो गई, वो इतना इजी नहीं है. तो ये इसको इस तरह से मानना भी नहीं चाहिए, बिकॉज ऑफ द फैक्ट दैट पेटेंट इज ओनली योर establishing the fact that you have got some innovative solution which has not been thought by anybody else. But to monetize it, to convert that into business is a different journey altogether. मैं बात कर रहा था यहाँ पे to the people who are organizing various types of seminars on intellectual property. तो मैंने कहा कि गुजरात में जो पेटेंट मिले लोगों को हजारों की तादाद में, उसमें से कितनी जो है पेटेंट्स बिजनेस में कन्वर्ट हुई. व्हाट इज द स्टेटस ऑफ दैट? इसका एक जो है इम्पैक्ट स्टडी और आउटकम स्टडी बताइए. I don't think they have been able to come up with anything so far. आप समझे कि नहीं? तो इसी तरह से आपने फर्ज कीजिए बनाना भी शुरू कर दिया, मानो कि आपका प्रोडक्ट सब तरह से परफेक्ट है. मैंने अपने विंडो के बारे में बताया आपको, जर्मन कोलैबोरेशन, जर्मन मशीनरी, बेस्ट ऑफ बेस्ट says what we got, we made perfect products. पर उसकी प्राइस जो है आज एल्यूमिनियम की विंडो से दुगुना थी. We could not convince the customers that they should pay ट्वाइस द प्राइस. इसके बाद में हम पीछे लग गए इसमें कि इसको हम एनर्जी सेविंग विंडो की इसकी तरह से प्रमोट करेंगे. हम कहेंगे these are beautiful windows, there is not any requiring maintenance. Again, we did not have the customer confidence, we did not win customers, and we did not win orders, and finally we had to close that down. तो ये तो बिजनेस की कॉमन रिस्क है भाई साहब. सब लोगों को समझना चाहिए. आपने कुछ एक ऐप का सोचा और आपने कहा मैं ऐप बना दूंगा, उस ऐप के द्वारा जो है मैं कस्टमर्स जीत सकूंगा. इतना आसान नहीं है, इतना आसान नहीं है. आप सोचते कुछ हैं, उससे आपकी सोच जो है आप तक सीमित है. until unless you have looked at the market and until unless you have connected to the customers, और जब तक आपने उन पर ट्राई नहीं किया, उनको कन्विंस नहीं किया, स्प्रेड नहीं किया, तब तक जो सफलता नहीं मिलती है.
Okay, thank you, sir. One more question is there, like, which is the most important skill in business? Like, you have talked about marketing, finance, and various HR skills and all. So, for a person to start as an entrepreneur, from where, which skill, if they wish to start with, which is actually one of the most important skill?
नहीं, सभी का देखिए, आई कैन नॉट से जैसे हाथ महत्वपूर्ण है कि सिर महत्वपूर्ण है कि पैर महत्वपूर्ण है. इट्स अ कंप्लीट बॉडी, प्लीज अंडरस्टैंड. एंड दीज थिंग्स हैव टू मूव इन अ काइंड ऑफ एन सिंक्रोनाइज्ड मैनर. सभी चीजों का थोड़ा थोड़ा इनपुट होना जरूरी है. नाउ you have to appreciate that an engineer, a designer is not going to have all the knowledges, but these knowledges can be either hired or these can be acquired over a period of time or can be learned. So engineer may be very very good at, let's say, making a mechanical device, पर वो मैकेनिकल डिवाइस का फिर पैकेजिंग कैसे करना है, उसका प्राइसिंग कैसे करना है, वो उसके पास में अगर उसकी समझ नहीं है, then he has to engage somebody else who will be working for him, or he has to hire some the talent to tell him what is to be done. और उसके बाद में इसको सीखना, खुद को भी सीखना जरूरी रहता है. जैसे मेरा, मैं कहूँगा, मैं एज एन एंटरप्रेन्योर, आप समझ सकते हैं दैट आई डिड माय एमबीए फ्रॉम IIM Ahmedabad, सो आई न्यू रूडिमेंट्री थिंग्स अबाउट मार्केटिंग, सेलिंग, ब्रांडिंग, डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन तो मैं जानता ही था, फाइनेंस के बारे में भी जानता था. बट अगर मैं कहूँगा कि मैं मैन्युफैक्चरिंग करने के लिए खुद बैठ जाऊँगा एज एन इंजीनियर, वो मेरे में कैपेबिलिटी नहीं थी. सो आई हैड टू बिल्ड अ टीम. सो everybody who's say thinking of doing business of his own, becoming an entrepreneur, has to understand that he has to be multitasker. Wherever he is say not comfortable, he has to take help either from a consultant or from an advisor or from an employee or say from some other say maybe agency, और उसको लेके जोड़ के सारा का सारा काम करके करना पड़ेगा. Because finally you are doing business, which means you are either providing a product or you are providing a service, and in exchange of that somebody is paying you. So whoever is paying you, he will say that आपकी कंपनी से, आपकी जो है पार्टनरशिप कंपनी से मैंने खरीदा है, मैंने आपको एयर कंडीशनर का ऑर्डर दिया है और वो एयर कंडीशनर काम करना चाहिए. नाउ इट वाज अप टू यू टू काइंड ऑफ ऑर्गेनाइज एवरीथिंग. An entrepreneur has to organize everything and put it in that particular product or service for which he is charging. And therefore it is essential for him to be a kind of a team leader, kind of a coordinator and an overall manager. So हर एक की अपनी स्पेशलिटी 1 2 3 हो सकती है, उसमें वो ध्यान लगा के काम कर सकते. दूसरों में उसको लेना तो पड़ेगा ही पड़ेगा. अगर फाइनेंस का नॉलेज नहीं है तो आपको जो है फाइनेंस वाले एक्सपर्ट से या फाइनेंस के कंसल्टेंट से, आपको ऑडिटिंग का कुछ ज्ञान नहीं है तो यू हैव टू गो थ्रू अ सीए. आपको मैंने जैसे बताया, कंपनी बनानी है, कंपनी बनाना हर एक का काम नहीं है. कंपनी बनाने के लिए देयर आर नो से काइंड्स ऑफ द कंपनी सेक्रेटरीज और नो से लॉयर्स, दे विल बी हेल्पिंग यू इन मेकिंग अ कंपनी. आप ऑनलाइन कई चीजें कर सकते हैं, मैं ये नहीं कह रहा हूं कि ऑनलाइन कई चीजें नहीं कर सकते हैं, बट प्लीज अंडरस्टैंड द काइंड ऑफ स्ट्रक्चर वी हैव गॉट compels us to take professional help.
सर मेरा नेट चला
हेल्प
गया
नहीं
सर.
लो आप तो ये काम नहीं होता है. लास्ट में आपको एक मकान बनाना है तो you require a structural engineer. After that you require an architect, then you require an MVP consultant, you require not maybe interior decorator, you require XYZ. ये 5-10 एजेंसी आप इकट्ठी करो तब जाकर आपका एक डिसेंट लिवेबल मकान बनता है. उसको आप इनफॉर्मल सेक्टर से ले आए या फॉर्मल सेक्टर से लेकर आए, पर लाना तो पड़ता है इन लोगों को सबको साथ में. जी.
Okay, sir. Yeah, I think there are no more questions. So
Okay.
if any questions, students can still raise your hand. Otherwise, I think so there are no questions left from our side. So first of all, I mean, would like to thank you, sir, for your valuable time. I mean, we are honored you as an expert because you shared your experience, which is over more than 43 years, to the young students who are going to be the future of this country. And so we again like to thank you very much for your time, and we are grateful to you, sir. And thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah.